All right. Yes, I see the chat is hot. Everybody, please jump in the chat. Jump in the chat. Tell us what university you from. University of St. Thomas, Minnesota. Hey, hey, hey. If you all have a business, please throw it in the chat. If you have a LinkedIn, throw that in the chat as well. This is a great opportunity for founders, aspiring founders, people who have ideas to connect with one another from all around the country. So, you ready, Tori? You ready to get started? We got an amazing founder that we're going to be
Ready.
talking to today, y'all. I hope y'all ready. We got an amazing founder that is going to be talking to us today. All right. What you think, Toy?
I like it.
I like it.
Go.
I like it. I like it. All right. As everybody keeps coming in, we'll let Toy go ahead and get started.
Hi, everybody. I'm Toy. I'm the CEO of EntreEd, which is the Consortium for Entrepreneurship Education. We're a national nonprofit, and we are over the moon. I'm here with my co-host, Tremaine Davis, who is a six-time founder and just awesome guy, as you guys can already tell. So we're just blown away to have Mariam Nusrat here with us for our featured Startup Thursday speaker. This is so cool. Y'all are on the very first one, and I am grateful and thankful to all of you for being here. So I am going to give a little bit of her bio, but I am not going to steal her thunder because she is just incredible. All right, you ready to go? So Mariam Nusrat is the founder and CEO of Breshna, a revolutionary no-code platform that empowers users to rapidly create, distribute, and monetize purpose-driven, bite-sized video games. And I will let her talk about what that means because it's awesome. With a background in ed tech and international development sectors, she's a passionate advocate for using video games as a medium for education, marketing, and impact. As a Forbes Next 1K entrepreneur, a TEDx speaker, y'all should check those out, and ex-World Bank senior education specialist, Mariam has demonstrated exceptional leadership, innovation, and vision in the fields of purposeful gaming and educational content. Welcome, Mariam. We're so excited to have you here.
Thank you
Yes,
so
yes,
much,
yes.
Toy. Thank you, Tremaine. Thanks for having me. Super psyched to be here.
All right. So, do you want to give a couple of house rules, Toy, before we jump
Yes,
in?
yes, yes. So house rules, get ready, guys. So we will be monitoring the chat. And if you have questions that you might be too shy to ask, that's fine. You can put them in the chat. However, during the end, we will do a Q&A. And if you are going to ask a question in person, in real life, please turn on your camera so we can see your beautiful face. And then make sure otherwise you have your video or audio muted during the call. Very important because we love dogs and cats and things, but we don't want to hear them during the meeting. And then I will put this in the chat too, but we have started an Instagram where this network can continue to grow, and we will put content from this Startup Thursday as well as just some crazy good stuff in there as we're building it. So y'all are on the ground floor of this thing. So I will put it in. It's Startup Innovation Center is the Instagram, and as soon as I'm done talking, I'll throw it in the chat. Also, if you follow it this evening, we are going to be giving away a $20 Uber Eats prize and we'll announce that at the end. So for anyone that follows. So, all right. I think that those are all the house rules.
Yep.
Anything else, Tremaine?
I think that's it. I think you hit the nail on the head. So we're gonna have a lot of fun today. I was just talking to Mariam earlier before the call about how she raised her money for her business, the perseverance that she had to have to be able to do that. We're certainly going to talk about that because, as you all know, entrepreneurship, or as you all may have heard, entrepreneurship is hard. It is not something easy that you can just pick up and do. So I am a little bit about me. I'm Tremaine Davis. I am a six-time founder. Started my first tech company 24 years ago. I know some people are like, hey, I'm 24, I'm 23, I'm 22. So yes, before you were born. So tech looked a lot different back then. But right now, I run two tech companies, actually, one in ed tech and one in deep tech. So really excited about talking to Mariam today about her journey and what she did to build her business, go from 0 to 1. I think everybody here is going to be able to get some nuggets. Please keep the chat going. If you have any questions, throw them in the chat. And take a second to follow us on IG. Toy's going to throw the link in the chat. Follow us on IG. We definitely giving away a door prize on IG for those that follow. Easy, easy peasy. It ain't even a lot to it. All right, Mariam, please come off mute. The people need to hear your story. Give us a quick 2-minute, maybe 1-minute intro on you, on Breshna, and your company. Toy talked about snackable size gaming platform. What is a snackable size gaming platform? People that want to build games. Just tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll jump into the conversation.
100%, Tremaine. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you everyone for making time and joining and listening. As entrepreneurs, I'm always so excited to talk to fellow founders and fellow entrepreneurs. So super excited for you to be here. Don't be shy. This is a conversation. Would love to hear from you. Would love feedback, questions, anything you have. But I am Mariam Nusrat. I'm the founder and CEO of Breshna.io. And the best way to think about Breshna is kind of like the Canva for video games. So what TikTok did for video, what Canva did for design, we're doing for video games. So our platform enables people to make their own video games, no coding, no design skills, and at lightning speed. Breshna, the word actually means lightning in the Pashto language, which is my mother tongue. So I'm originally from Pakistan. I moved to the US around 15 years ago. And Breshna enables people to make video games at lightning speed. I'm an economist by academic training. I then was working at the World Bank across 22 different countries in Sub-Saharan Africa, South Asia, and Middle East, and then started a gaming studio and then built my own venture-backed platform. We'll go into all of that, but I've been doing this for 3 years. 3 years later, we have 179,000 registered game makers that have made over 160,000 video games on the platform with over 2 million gameplays. We raised $2.6 million in seed funding from investors like Paris Hilton, Randy Zuckerberg, that's Mark Zuckerberg's sister, and Bill Ackman's family office. And we are empowering people to make educational games, marketing games, social impact games, meme games, whatever you want to do, just hyper casual, simple games. So think about like a Super Mario kind of game where you're catching even numbers and dodging odd numbers, or Travis Kelce's head is catching Taylor Swift songs and dodging everything else. Whatever it is, whatever game you want to make, we put the power in the hands of the game makers. And we're on this journey of empowering the next 100 million people so they can tell their stories through video games.
That is amazing. I
Thank you.
love this platform. So I'm not only a fan now, I'm also going to be a user.
I would love that.
Yes, we totally going to be a client now. And so, anybody else that's listening, I think this is the perfect marketing tool when you're talking about creating games for marketing, for engagement, and things like that. All right, so listen, you got to tell us how you went from the World Bank, a trained economist, to running Breshna. Where did the idea come from? Like, how did you get this epiphany that this was something that needed to be in the marketplace?
Yeah, so this one's gonna be an interesting one. So here I am. Okay, dial back. I'm in third grade. Third grade, Mariam is sitting in Pakistan, and my dad comes home and he has 3 logos in front of him, newspaper cuttings. One is the LUMS. It's a college. It's a business school in Pakistan. It's one of the top in Asia. Then there is London School of Economics, and then there's a World Bank logo. And he goes to me, child, you're going to do your bachelor's from LUMS, your master's from London School of Economics, and then you're going to go work at the World Bank. Third grade, I don't even know what an economist is. I'm like, my path has been laid out, right? So tiger parents, Asians, I mean, that's just the jam. So I'm like, all right, whatever, what, we're going to do that. And in a reverse order, but I ended up doing LUMS, London School of Economics, threw another master's in there from GW, and then ended up working at the World Bank. And while I was working at the bank, so as some of you may know, World Bank works on international development projects with with what they call the emerging world, right? And everything. So you help these countries build different kinds of projects. And as I was working on them, I was working in education policy. I just realized every time we tried to do purposeful communication. So if you're trying to teach people something, whether it's education or financial literacy or climate action or health, anything we wanted to do, it was always so boring. It's like, here's a brochure, go change your behavior and everything, right? I grew up playing SimCity. I was like, I've been learning about urban planning when I didn't even know that I was learning about urban planning while playing SimCity. So I'm like, you know what, there's something here. I think video games can be used as a means of inspiring behavior change. So now I'm at GW, I'm doing my second master's degree. And as a student project, they were like, hey, come up with something innovative. So I end up deciding I'm going to make a period game, a menstrual health game where you're catching pads with a pair of undies and you're busting menstrual myths. And that's what I decided we were going to do. And I call up my very Pakistani, my very conservative, my very Muslim brother, and I'm like, hey, I am non-tech myself, but you're going to help me find developers because we're going to make a period game. We got over that conversation. There was some awkward silence there. So I started taking the Sigma at home. And that was the beginning of us building, realizing the power. We built that game and it completely went viral. We built it with USAID, UN. We built it in for small little phones, like, I mean, basically low-end Android phones. And we built it in Swahili and Nepalese and Urdu and English and Pashto. And we realized that there's this huge power of hyper casual video games, snackable video games to inspire positive behavior change. So everyone has their day job. And at the side, we set up a gaming studio. We're a not for profit gaming studio and we make games for change. That was our motto 11 years ago. And we started making games. And we make games on climate action, animal welfare, reproductive health, financial literacy, and COVID-19 awareness. And when COVID hit, we realized that the demand for these games was skyrocketing. So here, guys, now what's interesting is happening is I was working at a corporate. Then I started what is called a service-based studio, where we were providing a service of making games. But we realized that the demand was too high and we couldn't build these games fast enough. And also that we were taking more time getting the contract and getting those things up and running than actually making the games. And that the games that they were asking for was not Call of Duty or World of Warcraft. They were asking for simple, hyper-casual games. So we were like, you know what? Why don't we remove ourselves from the equation? So think about it. We're actually putting ourselves out of business, right? We're saying, hey, we are going to automate what we do, and we're going to empower our users to make their own video games. I'm an avid user of Canva, and I was like, where is the Canva for video games? Why can no one just have a simple platform where they can make their own educational social impact video games? And that was the birth of Breshna.io 3 years ago, where we were like, we're going to empower people so they can make their own games for entertainment, but then also games for social impact, marketing, training, and all of that. And that was the beginning of my founder journey.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. So, so the first part of it is actually kind of funny how your dad came to you in third grade and told you this is your path.
And then I was like, sure, that's my path.
Yeah, so we definitely got to put an asterisk in that. That is really, really, really funny because that ended up actually being your path. So dad knew what he was talking about. So, but the ability to pivot. So when you think about an entrepreneur, a lot of times you think about these people who are building like these really cool things, and they're out here really thinking about how they're going to do something that's way different. A lot of times you think corporate America, that runs counters to that. So it's like either you go corporate or you go entrepreneurship, but the fact that you started out in corporate America, then you left corporate, that had to be a big deal because corporate is a guaranteed paycheck with benefits, with, 2 weeks vacation and bonuses. Like to leave that on the table to pursue a business had to be a risk in your mind. Like, what gave you the fortitude? Because I want to talk about how you raised this money too. You raised $2.9 million. I want to talk about that, but I think this will feed that conversation, the fortitude that you had to have, or, just the mental toughness to be able to leave corporate America to go into something like entrepreneurship is really unsure.
Yeah, 100%, Tremaine. And I think, what's often a misconception. So like startups is risky business, okay? Like 90% of startups fail. And startups founders have to be a certain kind of crazy because every founder you talk to, they're like, no, I'm that 10%. So every single one of us believes we're the 10%. It's kind of like being in a plane where you defy all laws of gravity. You're in a metal tube in the sky, but you're like, this is going to work. Of course, like what could possibly go wrong? And I really believe that 90% of startups fail, but every founder is like, I'm going to be the one that's going to defy all odds, right? So startups is risky business. All odds are stacked against you. But I think just because it's risky does not mean that you have to take unnecessary risks. So what I ended up doing was I kind of had a plan. So even when I was speaking with investors, so we started building and I applied to accelerators like crazy. Like I was just like, I sent hundreds of applications to accelerators because I was like, okay, I need money to start building this. And the first accelerator we got accepted to, I still remember it came with a $25,000 check. And I was like, look, the person was like, okay, can you quit your job? And I was like, I talked to my, who is now our lead investor. I spoke with him and I was like, look, you have two options. I quit my job and this $25,000 goes into my salary, right? Or I actually put this into developers because Breshna has my time anyways.
Yeah.
Any time that I'm not working in my day job, I am eating, breathing, sleeping my startup. So
Yeah.
why would you rather wait on it? Let me build the product while I keep my day job. I will continue to work and I would like, whatever it takes, whether it's weekends, whatever it's nights. I think I had an agreement with every investor. There are investors who will be like, I'm not going to put money in you if you're not full time.
Yeah.
To understand where that's coming from. They're saying that because they don't know that you'll be able to build it. But I'm not the one building it. My developers are the ones building it, right?
Yeah.
So as long as you're able to answer, think about where that hesitation is coming from. And if you're able to speak to that, so I actually had a rule that I'm not going to quit myself till I reach $1 million. So I actually got to $1 million in fundraising before I quit my own job. Because again,
Nice.
like you said, I mean, for me, I'm an oldpreneur, guys. Like, I mean, in entrepreneurship, like if you're in your 30s, you're doomed. You're like, oh, you're an oldpreneur. So I was an oldpreneur, but I have a mortgage, I have a family. It's like I have real things. And I talk to my investors, and I was like, if I'm gonna be worrying about the ramen soup, I do not have the luxury to be in a paper in my parents' basement to drink ramen soup, right? Like that's not the phase of life I'm in, right? And everything. So work with me here. So I think I was very grateful. And then my day job, my manager, when I got to the million, I was like, hey, I'm quitting. She gave me a promotion. And I was like, no, this is not a bluff. Like, this is not a negotiation. I'm quitting. And then they actually put me on a 2-year sabbatical. So they were like, we will hold your job for you. You might come back. Just go do your thing and you might come back. And then in February of this year, I was like, I'm not coming back. Like this is,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's when
Yeah.
I
Oh
actually
my
quit
God.
quick. So yeah,
So,
I just think that we phased it in. So my co-founder is my brother. He quit first. He started. So developers came on first. Then he quit. He started full time, and then eventually at the end. So I didn't take a salary for a year because I was getting my World Bank salary. So it's how you craft it.
yeah, yeah, no, that is good stuff. It's funny that once you tried to leave corporate America, they tried to give you a raise. I'm telling you, man, like, jobs and entrepreneurship. I mean, corporate America just wants to suck you in with all of those benefits. But I
Right.
like the way you thought about it. You said, hey, I've got a plan here. I'll use my job, I'll use corporate America to fund my dream, to fund what I want to do. And so, you don't have to necessarily take the big leap. Sometimes if you have an opportunity to work, you can get worldview, you can get some macroeconomic macro view of things. Sometimes corporate America can help give you an expanded mindset for the vision that you actually have. So one thing that I definitely want to ask you about, which I think would be helpful, especially for the young people here, you mentioned it, is these accelerators. So like back when I first started, which is, I feel old now because I'm like back in the day. I'm saying back in the day. But like when I first got started, they didn't have accelerators. Like all of this non-dilutive capital, and for everybody on the line, non-dilutive capital means you can get into an accelerator and give you $25,000 like they gave Mariam here, and they don't take any piece of your company. You just get into.
Ours was with equity. It was an
Oh, it
equity.
was with equity. Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. But
But
this kind of
but yes,
capital is available these days.
yes.
25 year when I first, that did not exist. And so I always encourage young founders, especially like the ones that are on the line here, like hit these accelerators. Like that is a mechanism for capital raising that did not exist even 10 years ago. Like one of my companies, so my deep tech company, we have a deep tech company where we use fiber optics um to build corrosion detection ecosystems. And we just got our first $200,000 in from an accelerator.
See,
We launched this company 6 months ago and we got our first 200K in through an accelerator. And it's like that just didn't exist. So it blows my mind now, all of the free money, not free money, but all of the access to capital that creates. Because if you're a young founder on this line, you can literally Google like accelerators in the space that you're in and just apply. So I'm glad you mentioned that, Mariam, because that's a new funding mechanism that wasn't out, but I think it applies to young entrepreneurs now, the next generation of entrepreneurs. It can really help, to make them successful.
Yeah, and I would add one caveat is do your research as well.
That's
Now it's
true.
almost like there's so many out there, and some expect you to pay, and then they aren't exactly the highest quality. So one thing I've started doing is talk to founders that have been through that process, right? Like literally you can Google and talk to people. Founders are your best friends. You learn so much more from someone who's 5 steps ahead of you than Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg does not remember what it was like to be a founder, probably, right? But people that are like 2 or 5 steps ahead of you, that's where you need to tap into them. That's where you need to learn from them. And I mean, I think, Tremaine, we're going to get into this, but the power of social media is just wild. So, I mean, I'll let you kind of, because I really do want to speak about that, but I'll let you kind of maybe lead the question.
No. That's really good. So let's go there since you mentioned it, because I think that that's really, really, really relevant for, the next generation of entrepreneurs and innovators and student entrepreneurs and young people who are building stuff today, which would be a good portion of the people that are attending tonight, that are in university, they're university students or graduates, they're thinking about things, they have an idea. How can they leverage social media in their startup journey? Because I know you did that for you, but like, maybe give some game on how they could leverage social media.
Yeah, so I think just for context, Tremaine, right? Like, so I'm coming at this from this World Bank world, from this not-for-profit world. I am used to doling out cash at the bank. I'm not used to asking for money. I'm like, what is this new life? And also, I think as an immigrant, I think as a cultural thing, I was very uncomfortable asking for money, right? I would just be like, wait, how? Like that just feels like I'm embarrassed or something.
Yeah.
One reframing, just very quickly, that you need to do. This is not charity. Okay, first of all, an investment in your company is not a charity, but also no one owes you anything. So when
Yeah.
you are pitching to an investor, you need to put yourself in their position, which is that they are putting money in a startup. So their money can now multiply several folds. Because think about it, they could put money in real estate, they could put money in the bank, they could put money anywhere, they could put money in any of the other startups. So there is an opportunity cost that they have to the money that they put into you. So when you pitch to them, a lot of founders get too attached to their startup, right? So you're like, well, of course you should fund me because I am curing cancer. Why would you not fund curing cancer? Well, curing cancer, they're going to fund it if it's going to make them money, right? And everything. There could be a double bottom line. It's really good social impact. Especially social impact companies are now doing more and more well, but you still have to keep in mind that you have to have the framing of, one, they're not doing you a favor, but you're also not doing them a favor. This is a business transaction where literally you are selling a portion of your company. Think of it like a cake. You start with a cake, you have the full cake, and now you're selling a portion of your cake that you think are going to be this massive cake in 10 years, and you're selling them that little portion today for a single price, which is now going to be 10x, 20x, 100x later on, 10 years later, right? So definitely keep that transaction in mind. Now, I had to teach myself that, right, Tremaine, because I was coming at this from, I was like, all right, well, just give me money. It couldn't be that complicated. You're rich, I'm not. So I mean, money flows where it should, right?
Yeah.
Rich before, it makes total sense. But I think for me, I had to get on Twitter and YouTube. And that's where I taught myself everything from what's a VC, what's an angel, what's a safe, what's a convertible note, what's equity, what's a valuation. All of these things, guys, this is the basics. You cannot outsource them to an advisor. You cannot have someone else do this work for you because you will be the one talking to the investors. So on Twitter, what I would do is I would literally get on these calls, and there's actually these spaces. I don't know, in the kind of like the COVID days, 2021, 2022, they were like Clubhouse spaces and Twitter spaces that were happening that were like pitch spaces. I would just go into anywhere, and anyone who would listen to my story, I would just pitch, right? And everything. And And it was no, 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 right? And everything. But what I realized is a lot of these no's are actually not no's. So what I started doing was I would get the no and I'd be like, that's fine, but can I add you to my investor email list? Now I had no investors to email, but all of a sudden, every single month, I'm sending my investor update email. That means that now I'm on top of their mind. Investors invest in lines, they don't invest in dots. Okay, so they're gonna watch you. They speak to you the first time, they might be like, oh, you're too early, come back to me, keep me posted, because an investor wants to buy time. So you want to take away the time, you want them to commit as soon as possible, but they want to delay it as much as possible. Now that kind of like back and forth, what you need to do is create that momentum. So when you're sending an update and it's not like the update is like, oh, next month my entire product is built. You could literally be like, today I have my mailing list, now I have my wait list, now we've done focus groups, now I know where the demand is, now I know what my ideal consumers persona is, whatever it is that you want to break down. Just show them that progress. I did that, but then I also started doing the same thing on Twitter. So I would literally write my things to do list, like bullet, and then like write about it on social media. I'd be like, today I'm gonna do this, and then at the end of the day, today I did this and I failed at this. And you know what you do is you build an army around you, because people are like, this crazy psycho woman is just here every single day. She's just here building, and she's, so it's like, it's almost like when they say at early stage they invest on the jockey, not the horse. So that's when you are the pitch, you
Yeah.
are the deck,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
are the product, right? So you show that perseverance, you show that grit. Every single investor that said yes to us was like, I don't know what's going to happen with this product, but you, girl, are going to do something, woman. So, like, go do it, right? And everything. So, you want to show them that. I always talk about the 3 Ps: the passion, perseverance, and purpose. Show up every single day with that fire in your belly, and then just move towards a goal every single day. And once you start doing that, and especially if you do that on social media, guys, you are the generation of social media.
Yeah.
Main eye toy, we had to learn this, like we had to jank our way through it, right? And everything. You guys were born on social media, you're good at it, whether it's vlogging every day, whether it's writing a tweet, whether it's on LinkedIn. I moved from Twitter to LinkedIn now because I feel like that's where the community kind of shifted, so now I'm like more active on LinkedIn. But pick one platform, build every single day. Consistency, that's the answer. And then before you know it, when you go to fundraise, they're going to be like, yo, you're that girl. People call me the Canva for games girl. Literally, like that's, and that is the kind of branding you need, is you say it again and again and again so they remember it.
So I love what you just said, because that is a way that you can really use something that we use every day, which is social media, to really start building a community around your idea or around your business, even if it's just at the idea stage. Like, you can start talking about it. I love what you said. We got into these Clubhouse rooms, got into these Twitter rooms, Instagram, and just start pitching it. Just start telling people the idea to get the feedback in. That's like a true entrepreneur right there, by the way. So you want to get as much feedback as possible on your idea as you're building it out. And so I teach, entrepreneurship at multiple universities, and I talk about customer discovery all the time, and how that starts even at the idea phase. As soon as you have the idea, you need to start getting feedback from the people that are in your target audience. Like, what are they thinking about the stuff that you're thinking about? So one thing that you mentioned, because you talked about how you raised, well, you didn't go all the way into it, but you started to talk about how you raised this $2.9 million, and it took you 219 VC calls to raise this money. So talk about knocking on doors. So you had 219 venture capital meetings to raise $2.9 million. Like, that is amazing. That means that you had to have certain level of perseverance in order to be able to be successful at your raise. But before we get there, talk about, and I don't know if this is a difficulty for you, but I see this because I deal with so many founders, being a woman trying to raise venture capital, because generally, there's an extra layer of difficulty in the entrepreneurial space for female founders, and I teach female founders all the time, and it can be difficult trying to, I don't know, mix it up with the boys, I guess, quote unquote, because there's a certain persona of who goes out and gets capital, who goes out and, so when you're a woman trying to do that and you don't fit that persona, sometimes it can create difficulty. So did you experience anything in that range, and how did you deal with it?
Yeah, so I think, Tremaine, if you talk about like odds, right? No Ivy League background, non-tech, immigrant, East Coast, woman, first time founder, like none of these things kind of like speak, hey, write me a check. Like no one,
Yeah,
these are the kinds of things people run away from. But
yeah,
I think there's a framing that's needed, right? So it's like, yes, are the odds stacked against me? 100%. Only 2% of women receive VC funding. Like only 2% of VC funding goes to female founders, right? We are aware of all of those stats. But I think rather than what I did was rather than wallow in the odds that were stacked against me and the impossibleness of this task, I think I looked at the windows of opportunity. I leaned into my gender, I leaned into my ethnicity, I leaned into my experience, I leaned into my background, because actually, again, there are entire communities built for female founders. There are entire communities built for founders of color. There are entire communities built for immigrant founders, right? So I think like there is like, you can either look at it from that, hey, this is a very challenging task, or you can be like, I'm still building I'm still better off than the generation before me, right? So it's like, I mean,
yeah,
sure,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
hard, but I mean, I have it the best that we've had it ever, right? Like women weren't
yeah,
even in the workforce like 50 years ago, right? It's like and everything. So it's like, I mean, kind of like where we're at, I mean, this is the farthest that civilization has been. So
yeah,
let's look at it like that, right? I mean, I am at the cutting edge of female entrepreneurship. So I think for me, it was like that reframing that was needed, where I was like, hey, you know what? I'm just going to do this. And something I'm going to add on to that is when you're pitching, I mean, often people will talk about the imposter syndrome. I have the imposter syndrome, or I'm so scared of pitching, or I'm not a public speaker. No one was born a public speaker. Everyone is scared of that. The only way to get away from fear is through comfort. And comfort leads to confidence. And the only way you're going to get comfort is practice. So, believe it or not, I have a 60-second pitch, a 2-minute pitch, a 5-minute pitch, and a 20-minute pitch. And I know that stuff by heart. You could wake me up in the middle of the night and be like, give me your 60-second pitch, and I will give you my 60-second pitch, right? And it sounds very natural and very eloquent when I do it, but it's because I've learned it by heart. I have A/B tested it. I've recorded myself on WhatsApp and sent myself my pitch again. I would literally play my pitch in the bathroom while I'm taking a shower at my own voice. And I'm like,
yes,
that does not match. That matches, that tracks. I A/B tested, is it Canva for video games or is it TikTok for video games? Where does that resonate? How do I come up with it, right? So you need to A/B test the pauses. Where do you take a breath? Where do you lean in? All of that. I don't use a deck on my investor calls. I don't want to be a little window where I'm like, can you see my screen? Are you seeing the next slide? No, I don't do that. I send them the deck beforehand. No NDAs needed. No, no. I'm like, I'm going to shout this from the rooftop. I send them the deck. I tell a story, and then I go to the deck in my Q&A. But that does not mean I tell a fluffy story. I know my numbers. I know my revenue. I know my valuation. I know all the questions. And you need to know that off the screen so that you come off as this confident boss founder that is in control, right? And the only way you're going to be in control is if you practice it to death, literally. So yeah, sorry, that was
No, that is really, I love the way you said reframe, like, because you're right. I mean, if you think about where we were 30 years ago, like nobody that was a woman was getting money. Now that it's 2%, like that is an improvement, and
that's
it'll keep getting better, and that's literally because of people like you pushing the envelope, being part of the change that we want to see happen, type of thing. And so I love the idea that, hey, I can participate or I can complain. You know what I mean? I can go get money or I can keep talking about it. And, the idea that you just kept pushing is something that I think is super inspiring. All right, so 219 VC calls.
Let's talk about that.
219 VC calls. I mentioned this before, so I also run an ed tech company, and we raised $1.3 million last year on our seed round, and we did 200 and like 30, 40 VC calls, and some days it was literally back to back to back to back. Like you get off one call, onto the next one, off one, onto the next one, off one, onto the next one. So like talk about, how, important it is. Like all money ain't good money, you know what I mean? And like not every investor is the right investor for you, you know. And so talk about how you were able to decipher that. I mean, we use mission and vision, you know, the things that are important to us, you know, to kind of be able to decipher who we want to have as investors. But even when you're talking about building teams, you know what I mean? The people that you have around you, like how did you decipher who you want as a part of Breshna as you're building it out?
Yeah, 100%. So I think, Tremaine, so one correction, it's 2.6 million. We raised
Oh,
2.6
2.6. Oh,
million. So
I'm
like,
sure you'll
sure.
take 2.9.
Actually, that is true. So I think like what's really funny is I feel like the first 300K is the hardest to come by, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that is just when think of it like pushing a boulder up a mountain, right? You're just all alone, you're pushing this boulder, it's huge, and you're like, I will never, like this mountaintop is never gonna come, I'm just at it alone. And then one of the cool things that happens with investors, so I ended up raising $2.6 million from investors like Paris Hilton, Randy Zuckerberg, Bill Ackman. Now, Paris wasn't the first check, right? And everything. So you have to get to a certain level of momentum. So in the beginning, you're less selective and you keep you're like, no, like minimum check size. I'll take a $5,000 check, whatever it takes. We leaned into Republic equity crowdfunding. I can speak to that on some other time and everything. That's a whole bucket. But like, what Tremaine was saying in the beginning, just lean into all options of capital, right? Venture capital itself, there's so many options. There's angels, there's accelerators, there's equity crowdfunding, there's VCs. But then there's also all these non-dilutive like grants and blah, blah, blah and everything. So first of all, know all the sources you can get money from. But to me, really, I mean, we fundraised for around 9 months. So there's a myth in the Silicon Valley, which is like, you got to create FOMO and you have to close your round in 30 days. That applies when you come in with the Rolodex of VC funds that are dying to. That's when you create FOMO. How do I create FOMO when I don't have anyone
When you
outside?
don't know anybody.
But
Exactly.
I did create FOMO. And how I crafted FOMO was on tranches of safes. So this is the whole where you need to know your math because it's not a lawyer's job. It's your job because if you know, so I was like, okay, currently my company is at a 5 million valuation. So if you come in today, we're at this. But guess what? We're launching our beta product on August, whatever. After the beta product launches, our valuation, we're already in conversations with slightly larger, funds that want to come in at an 8 million or a 10 million. So now all of a sudden you're saying, it's not that I've raised the full round, it's just that this chunk of the round is now available till this time. So come on in, right? So you almost kind of do, hey, I mean, we started at 5, we closed around at a 45 million post money. Our seed round closed at 45 million post.
That is amazing.
It's wild, right?
Amazing.
And there is, and I know that there's like, we have 27 months of runway. We're very capital efficient. So there's no risk of us doing a down round. But I mean, also like that's again, another nuance. So be careful the valuations that you raise at and be very wary of like how much you're giving up and what the price is, because you will have to meet that price at the next round and everything. Anyways, so we're raising in these tranches. And what I realized was that you just have to, that thing, Tremaine, that you were saying, I used to have 14, 17, on some days I had 20 calls where you just open up your Calendly and you have these 30-minute slots, just 30, 30, 30, 30. And like you might take a water break and you might take a bathroom break somewhere.
Maybe.
You just keep going. And hardest part with that is you will get a no and a no and a no and a no. And it crushes your soul. But you got to show up in every single call as if you're the hottest cake in the market, right? If you are showing up being like, life is so hard and I cannot raise money, well, guess what? That's a guaranteed no, because no one is putting money behind someone who gives off that, hey, you're losing. I mean, this is where you have to come to the call with so much confidence and such winning vibes. And that means that after every call, I would literally like shake myself and be like, you got this. You are a boss woman. You will raise this. You are ready for the next decacorn. Go back in, right? So it's like, you know how those boxing things where the coach like slaps them and like sends them back in? It's literally like that. So you just slap yourself, send yourself back in, and then you go and raise and raise and raise. So yeah, 219 calls, 29 yeses. So that's almost, and that 10%, is actually average, and usually it's lower, right? Like Tremaine, you did it during 2023. I can't even, like, it's like that was such a hard time. I mean, I
Oh
think
my gosh, insane.
it's insane, right? And everything. So I think like 10% is the average. So in order to reach 10%, you will have to knock. If you just knock on two doors and you're like, well, whoops, no one's giving me money, then congratulations, you've just given up too soon. It's like, I mean, it's a statistics game, it's a numbers game. So keep knocking on those doors, keep lining up those investor meetings. Never say no to a conversation, never say no to an opportunity to tell your story. Always be ready. If they're like, oh, do you want to tell me what you're building? If the answer to that question is no, my friend, you are in deep trouble, right? You should always be in pitch mode. It doesn't matter. I've pitched at Thanksgiving dinners, at Christmas. I'm like, I don't know, maybe someone at the airport. I don't know, man. I mean, I don't know where they come from. Like Uber drivers, I just pitch, right? And everything, because you just don't know who you will meet, who might have the next connection. So be in pitch mode, get your word out there, shout it from the mountaintops, because that's how you're going to rally an army behind you.
Oh my gosh, that is so good. Be in pitch mode. All right, if anybody has a tablet and you're writing down notes, write that down. Be in pitch mode always. So Miriam says she'll pitch at a Thanksgiving dinner, she'll pitch at a Christmas, she'll pitch in the airport. She'll pitch anytime. But that is what we have to do as entrepreneurs. Like, if you have an idea, you have to get that idea out there, and you have to build a community around the things that you're trying to accomplish. All right, before we go any further, because we're coming down to the end. If you all have questions, please throw them in the chat. Throw them in the chat, please, right now. Throw them in the chat, or raise your hand, or do the hand emoji, or something. If you got any questions for Mariam that she can answer. All right. Oh, we got one question. There we go. All right, Miss. How do you pronounce your name?
Belkis Sinisi.
Okay. Thank you so much for raising your hand. What is your question?
I'd say my main question is, starting a business is obviously not easy. So if you could go back and do anything different, what would you do and how would you do it?
Wow, that's a good question. If
Awesome
I could
question.
go back and I could do some things differently, focus. So I think in the beginning, opportunities are like these, like you're like a kitten, and opportunities are like these shiny objects. And not every opportunity is good opportunity, and not all capital is good capital, like Tremaine was saying, right? So selectivity is actually going to do you a lot of good. So for instance, midway through when we were building, I got some investor advice, some advisor advice, and I kind of got distracted with this whole blockchain Web3 world, right? And I was like, oh, that's so cool. Our users were asking for it. I was like, this is awesome. Like, we can allow them to monetize their games through cryptocurrency, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, long story. And I realized that as one person, I can't do it all, right? It might be a really cool opportunity, but it was taking me away from the core product market fit. So I have found product market fit for my product. And before I could monetize that and build on that, I was like, oh, now let me do this Web3 stuff and everything. So I actually had to take some really hard decisions this year of being like saying no. So saying no, if I had learned how to say no faster and be more firm in that vision, look, no one knows. It's testing, you're building a hypothesis, but learn to say no. And something that I have been good at, but I would say this again and again and again, be capital efficient. Money is your best friend on your journey. Literally think of it as these lilies that you have to jump from one after the other, right? So you're a frog, there's all these lilies, seed, pre-seed capital, Series A capital. Now these lilies are getting further and further, so the money is the only thing that's going to help you get to the other one. So if you run out of money, doesn't matter if I raise $2.6 million. If I'm out of money before meeting the metrics that are needed for a Series A, it's almost like there's a goal right there. I need to get to 500,000 ARR, 1 million ARR, whoever I'm talking to, right? And everything. So I talk to my Series A investors, the ones I want to raise from. I ask them, what is it going to take for you to write a check to me? They're like, boom, boom, boom. I'm like, okay, that's my goal. Now, how much money do I need to reach that goal? Multiply that by 2, because in the founder life, everything takes twice, thrice, 4 times longer. So plan for money, stretch every dollar, and learn to say no.
I love that. Learn to say no. I mean, listen, y'all need to write this down too, because your success is connected to not just the things you say yes to, but more so what you say no to. Because I think you're bringing up a really good point. And I see your hand, Destiny. What you're bringing up is a really good point, Mariam, because what'll happen is that sometimes good stuff will be a distraction. So when we say no, we're not necessarily talking about like evil stuff. We're not saying don't do crack. Like, I think we all know drugs is bad, type of thing. But like, it'll be stuff that is actually sounds good, like blockchain. Oh, you can do the people are asking for it, so it'll be things so it's not just don't say yeah, don't say no. It's what you're saying no to. You have to be very discerning, very focused, about the things you're saying no to, because you're not always saying no to evil stuff. You're saying no to good stuff sometimes, but it's just not what we're focused on right now. So that is a great, great point. Go ahead,
And it
Mariam.
could be a not now. It's not a no, right? For
It
me,
could be a not now.
not now.
Absolutely.
It's like,
Yeah,
let's do it next year. You can't build all the features your users ask for. You can't respond to every single opportunity that comes to your way. So just say not now.
that is awesome. All right, Destiny, you're up. Thank you so much for that question. You got to come off mute. Oh, there
Hi,
we go.
sorry.
No, it's all good. Hi.
My question, it kind of goes on to the topic that we're already speaking on, but with so many horror stories about investors catching a whiff of this great idea and, using it and developing it and putting money into it for their own benefit, how did you get over that fear knowing that stuff like that happened?
Okay, Destiny, listen to me. Ideas are plenty. Execution is rare. Do not
Okay.
worry about anyone stealing your idea. Everyone, the idea you have in your brain, 7 other people have had it during today in their shower, right? Every other person has had that idea. Ideas are plenty. Execution is what sets you apart. Imitation, we literally had a copycat. Someone who made an account in Breshna built a whole, literally copied our website down to the color of the button, right?
Wow.
And people were like, oh my God, what are you going to do? Blah, blah, blah. Like, you need to stop talking about this, blah, blah. Like, I'm like, dude, validation. I'm going to go on their website, see what they're doing right. I'm going to do that too. And then I'm going to execute faster. So literally speed. That's all you need to do. You execute better, you execute faster, whatever. There is Uber Eats, there's Grubhub, there's DoorDash, there's all of this. It's the same idea, right? And everything.
Mhm.
It's about the execution. It's about finding your exact specific moat, which is what is it that people can't beat you on. So my moat is a capital efficient team. My moat is I have my team in Pakistan. They build fast, we fail forward. We hypothesize, we test, and then we just go, right? And everything. So identify your moats. My moat is that you can make a game in any language. My moat is that I'm Pakistani and I have that huge 280 million population that I can test this idea with, right? So find things that are relevant to you. Those are your strong points. Forget about it. I have never asked anyone to sign an NDA. I have never asked. I don't even sometimes put that doc send. You know how on the doc send you have to like, I used to do it on a Google Drive. I'm like, dude, take it. I've put my pitch deck on Twitter. I put my pitch deck on LinkedIn. I'm like, copy it. Do it. I'm going to watch how you do it. And then I'm going to do it better. So execution.
Another
Wow,
thing.
thank you for that.
Yes, that is amazing. Thank you so much for that question, Destiny. I want to double tap, double click on that, because you cannot get caught up in I gotta hold my idea to my chest. I gotta hold it to my, like Miriam was saying earlier, she'll pitch at Thanksgiving dinner, she'll pitch at the airport, because the more you get the idea out there, the more feedback you can get, the faster you can iterate it, the faster you can make it better. And then think about it like this, she knows her customers too. She spent a lot of years developing relationships with her customers. If somebody goes to her website right now and says, hey, I'm a copy it, yeah, they can copy the website, but they can't copy the relationship she has with her customers. And that's
Right,
something
okay.
else that's super unique to what she's doing. So don't worry about copycats. You're doing something that's super unique, super intact and in tow with what somebody needs. You're solving a problem. They're copying you. You're solving problems. And that's a big, big, big difference. Thank you so much, Destiny.
Thank you for the responses.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Zara, you up.
Hello.
Hey, Zara.
Okay, so you literally just answered one of my questions. I'm really happy you answered that because I had like a similar issue recently. Like that's why my name is slightly changed right now. But my other question is what would you say are the three things, maybe not just three, but the main things that you should look for um when looking for an investor or like pitching to investor, and what do the investors usually look for, like their top main three things?
All right, before you answer that, Mariam, before you answer that, we got probably time for one more question before 7:30. Everybody go to Instagram and follow. We're going to give away a Uber Eats voucher from the new followers on the Instagram page. Toy, maybe drop that link to the Instagram page one more time. Startup Innovation Center, Innovation Center is easy. Hit follow, hit follow, hit follow. And we're going to give away a door prize on Instagram. All right, that's in there. All right, Mariam, you're up. This is a great question.
Okay, so let's do what do investors look for in you, right? So it's like, I mean, and it differs in every single stage. So at your stage, at the earliest stage, they're looking for conviction. They're definitely looking at you and the team. And this is why I'm saying, even if you haven't built your idea, start building your brand today. They're going to look you up on Instagram. They're going to look you up on LinkedIn, and they're going to be like, wow, she is a thought leader. I know that word is cringy, but you want to be able to place yourself in that space and be able to say, my idea may be new, but I come at this life experience. It doesn't have to be years of experience. It could be like, I mean, I met someone the other day who's doing last farewells. The whole thing is that because she is leaning into her dad and the loss of her dad. Now, that is a very specific her story, right? And everything. And she talks about that. So it doesn't matter how you frame it, but that's where you build your brand. They're going to look at you. They're going to look at the numbers. So the numbers need to make sense. If you're like, I'm going to build a company that's going to make $2,000 every single month, congratulations, that is a small business. If you're like, I'm going to do a consulting company, that is a service-based company. You need to ask yourself today, how can this scale? This one investor gave me this really good advice. I know we're on time, but let me just share this real fast. They were like, wedding photographers are one of the most lucrative businesses out there, but an investor will never touch it because for every wedding you need one photographer, right? So it's like, if you go to 10 weddings, you need 10 photographers. If you go to 100 weddings, you need 100. So it's like a 1-to-1 scale. That is not a venture backed model. When it's venture backed, it means your team stays the same. You still have the 10 people, but then you can service 1,000 people, 1 million people, 10 million people, 100 million people, right? So it's like, I mean, that scale needs to be there. So they're looking at you, they're looking for scale, and then they're looking for like a good idea, right? So you can't just be like, I'm going to build Chick-fil-A, and then they'll be like, well, Chick-fil-A was built, or like, I'm going to build Facebook or something. The amount of Facebooks I've heard, I'm like, dude, that's been done. It's done. It's done. It's like, but yeah. Anyways, what should you look for? Look, I'm not even going to pretend. In the beginning, your selectivity will be limited because in the beginning, you are like, hey, I need money. Be careful of dilution. If an advisor is like, give me 5% of your company and I will get you. No. Like, I mean, think long and hard about dilution. Think long and hard about co-founders, because the problem is you will become untouchable. If you lose too much of this money too fast, people will not put future funding into you. So be very, very careful. It might seem like it's cheap because you're like, well, I don't have money to pay you, but here's 5% of my company. Imagine what that's going to be 10 years from now, right? So it's like, I mean, I think the only thing I would say is in the beginning, I wasn't really selective. But later on, I said no. I'm saying no to money today. I had this video that went viral on Instagram, which is this pitch we do on New York. It has like 0.6 million views or something. And I mean, I have had investors in my DMs. They're like, we want to invest in you. And I'm like, no, I'm done. I've closed my round. I'm no longer taking checks. But we're opening the round for the Prime Minister of Barbados because she wants to invest. Because guess what? That's a good strategic investor to have. That is someone you do say yes to, right? And everything.
Yeah.
So missions and values that Tremaine said is really important. Like, make sure that they align with that. But at the end of the day, just as long as you have majority, I mean, as long as you don't dilute unnecessarily, you'll be able to have quite a bit of control.
One other thing I add in, and then we're going to wrap for tonight. One other thing I add in is that in the earliest stages of your business, your business is going to go through 1,000 iterations. Like, whatever your original idea is, by the time you take it to market, it will have changed 1,000,000 times, So investors aren't investing in the idea. They're not investing in because it's going to change a million times. They know that. They know that when they're sitting across the table from you, that whatever you're telling them, it's going to change 2, 3, 4 months from now. Like they know that. They're going to give you money on an idea that they know is going to change 4 or 5 months from now. So what they're investing in is this the person who can take this from all of the iterations that it's going to take to get this to market? Is this the person that has the fortitude? Is this the person that has the mental mindset? Is this the person who can take this through the sleepless nights? You know, they're going to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go to bed at 4 o'clock in the morning, 24-hour days. Is this the person who can do that to take this through all of the process it's going to take? So they're investing in you, at the early stages. When you have an idea and you're talking to somebody that may give you some money, they're not investing in your idea. They are investing in you, which is why Mariam was saying you got to be ready to pitch. You always got to be ready. You always got to have your game face on. You got to be able to slap yourself like Rocky, like you said, like Mike Tyson, slap yourself and get back in the game. If you get a no, you got to shake that no off and be ready for the next conversation, because that can lead to the yes. All right, we are at 7:30. Thank you so much, Mariam.
I think, I
Yes.
don't know, Tremaine, should we let Destiny come in? I'm happy to stay if she has one question and she did ask. Are you
Oh
guys
yeah,
okay?
if anybody has another question they want to hang out after we let
Wrap
go,
up.
you can. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Okay, sure. Why
But I
don't you
want to
wrap
make sure that I just let everybody know we're doing these all summer. So we got the next one coming up at the end of July, July 28th. That's our next Startup Thursday. We got a pitch competition coming up, virtual pitch competition. We giving some money away. This is free money, free money. So stay connected. We'll let you know when that's coming up. And our third Startup Thursday is going to be at the end of August. And then once we hit September, when school lets back in, we'll probably go every week. So this will be a weekly thing. So we want to make sure we're giving you guys all the resources that you need. We hope you all had a really good time. We got more hot founders that are going to be coming at you with a lot of gems. Thank you so much, Mariam. Please, let's show her some love in the chat. Thank you so much for your time today and for giving of yourself and your heart of service to these next generation of founders. All right, we're going to be giving away Uber Eats gift card on Instagram, so go follow. It's not too late. All right, we'll see y'all next month.
Wait,
I'm sorry, Toy, go.
Thank you everybody for hanging out. If you want to do the Uber Eats, I did random, just so everyone knows it's fair. I did random number generator and just counted the numbers down on the follower list. And I ended up with Maniola. And I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. So if that person is gone, I can reach out to him. But we
Nope, I see him on here still. So that is awesome.
we will be doing this again at our next one. And as we grow this network, we will be able, we're hoping to have this network be able to do some seed funding and things once we get rolling and we have a lot of engagement. So it's really exciting. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. Mariam, thank you so much for being here. This was great. Tremaine, thank you for moderating. This was just wonderful. I'm so excited and thank you all for being here. So.
Oh, Quincy said, when's the next one? So the next one is July 28th. July 28th, Quince. All right, we'll see you all later. Y'all have a great evening. Thank you all for joining. Tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend. All right.
Destiny, still on, want to ask
If she had a follow-up question.
Go ahead. I'm here.
Okay, so when I hear like investing and knowing that that money has to be put to use and managing that money properly, I am freaked out because I'm gonna get this money and then oh my God, I'm scared. Like, do I put somebody on the task of, maintaining the money, or how do I put myself in the mindset to utilize money properly, especially growing up and being kind of insecure in the realm of money management?
Yeah, so I think this is where you surround yourself with the right people as well. So like one of my co-founders, like my husband is a bookkeeper, right? So I really lean into that. I'm like, hey, we want to set the systems first up. I don't know if I would start paying advisors. Like I know someone said financial advisor. Like you're too small for that. Make an Excel file, right? Like start with an Excel file, set yourself up on QuickBooks. There's like so many tools right now where you can like really lean into that. And honestly, as long as you have good discipline and if you're documenting everything, you will also start to realize, you're like, oh, that's actually really cool. We spent this much this year, this month. We did not spend this much. This is the amount of revenue I need. Like when you talk about all of these things, burn, runway, monthly, I mean, ARR, where do I need to get? MRR, all of that. So just like get familiar. Again, insecurities come from lack of familiarity. Practice, practice, get familiar, watch YouTube videos. Like you guys, if you're on the founder journey for the next 2 years, you're not scrolling on Instagram. You are watching videos, you are
Yes.
listening to podcasts.
Yes.
Every single moment you're learning, right? It's like you don't have the time to watch TV. I'm sorry, like TV is
Right.
gone. It's like those days are gone, right? And everything. Just learn, learn, learn. And that's where you'll just build so much familiarity. I question my lawyers. I question my accountants. I am on a call with every single one of them. I'm like, learned, and I don't need to do their job. I just need to know the bird's eye view so that then when I go to an investor, I'm comfortable and I'm confident in what I'm saying.
Okay.
One other
Makes
thing I'll
sense.
say, Destiny, on that point is that, and this might sound crazy, but venture capitalists know that they're going to lose money. Like they're not concerned with you losing their money, because
Okay.
just like they gave you money, they gave 10 other founders money. The big bet for a venture capitalist is that they get the one Facebook, that pays for everything. So they'll invest in 25 businesses and they'll give all of them $1 million, and that's $25 million. And the hopes is that one out of those 25 businesses turns into the next Facebook, and then it pays for everything. So they're not really concerned with you losing money. So don't go into it with this fear like, oh my gosh, I just got $100,000. I'm going to lose this money. You have to have a plan. And to Mariam's point, you have to be able to manage the money. You want to be efficient and these types of things, but don't have that fear of like, oh no, if I lose the money, they're going to be coming after me. And, like, it ain't like that. You know what I mean? They deploy this, like they have to deploy. I've talked to some VCs that are like, man, I'm sitting on dry powder. Like I'm sitting on $5 or $6 million. I need businesses to invest in. Like I have to cut checks. I have to get rid of this money. So like they have to
Okay.
invest. So don't feel that pressure.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you all have other questions? While we got Mariam, she's willing to hang on a couple more minutes.
3 more minutes.
3 more minutes. All right, that's awesome. All right, Mariam, we really appreciate your time today. You've been so gracious with your time. Thank you so much for everything. We'll make sure that we stay connected with you as this thing grows, because we would love to have you back.
No,
As
it's my
we launch
pleasure.
this thing out. Yes, absolutely. And congratulations. Come on.
Thank you.
You know what they say.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so, so much. And again, the big deal is like, it's like, this is the work you guys are doing is the important work. So tap on to me whenever you need me. And hey, if I need to say no, I will say no. But when I'm available, I'll absolutely say yes.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much,
Thank
Mariam.
you
All right,
so
everybody. Have a good night.
Thanks
Appreciate
everyone.
you all.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.